Welcome, comic enthusiasts, to Ganyu, online comic. Remember to like and subscribe so we can experience interesting manhwa together. Su Changxian was still trying to divert Yushi's thoughts elsewhere, but it seemed futile. Yushi's gaze remained sharp as ever, staring fixedly at Xiao Yun. He thinking that everything would eventually come to a dead end. Suddenly, a voice emerged from nowhere. The voices corresponded to four peculiar leaders who appeared out of nowhere and flew towards him. They consisted of two stunningly beautiful fairy maidens, a woman with a jet-black beard and a shiny bald head, and a muscular man with a fierce look in his eyes, the most prominent feature being his thick, bushy eyebrows resembling two giant caterpillars on his face. Those who participated in the exam like Yushi realized something and exclaimed in shock, "Heavens, in peaceful times, it's rare to see leaders, so why are there so many of them today, and all of them heading towards that Su Changxian?" Hearing such words, Su Changxian couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, not understanding what was happening. What's going on now? Did I go to the wrong place today? Before he could comprehend the situation, one of the saintly leaders spoke up, "Su Changxian, are you willing to join our divine sound holy land?" Confused, he could only utter, "Huh," accompanied by a giant question mark hovering above his head. Before he could finish his words, the woman fairy and the man with the jet-black beard and the shiny bald head approached him with a bright, radiant smile and said, "Su Changxian is undoubtedly a martial arts genius. Don't miss this opportunity. Countless methods are available to you." Su Changxian didn't know what to do, standing awkwardly and saying, "Wait a minute." Before he could finish, disciples from the Supreme Sword Sect also began to shout, trying to claim him, "Two saintly leaders, Su Changxian belongs to our Supreme Sword Sect." Seeing that they had misspoken, the two saintly leaders quickly changed their tone and said cunningly, "Didn't you expel him from your sect already?" Their words silenced the disciples of the Supreme Sword Sect, leaving them speechless, while Su Changxian remained bewildered. Now, it wasn't just two saintly leaders surrounding him simultaneously, but instead four of them encircling him, each urging him incessantly, "Join the divine sound holy land, join the heavenly harmony holy land. No, join the celestial realm holy land with us." Changxian stood quietly on the side, observing the four saintly leaders arguing over him. He stood still with his hands clasped behind his back, furrowing his brow, silently contemplating their every move. The reason these saintly leaders changed their attitude so frequently was because they believed he had truly been reborn as an unparalleled genius whom no one could rival. If he nodded in agreement, he knew his true strength would be immediately exposed. If being exposed for his true strength was nothing compared to the fear of Yushi discovering that he had lied to her, the consequences Su Changxian would face would be devastating. Just thinking about that terrifying prospect made Su Changxian break out in a cold sweat, his face turning pale. As he was still immersed in the scenes of disaster he had conjured up in his mind, the Holy Land leader with the shiny bald head suddenly focused his bright eyes on him, eagerly asking, "Little friend, what do you think?" Startled and confused, Changxian asked back, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Seeing that Su Changxian finally opened his mouth to respond instead of standing there dumbfounded, the heavenly saintly leader chuckled happily, stroking his long beard, and said, "So it seems that little friend Su agrees to receive the heavenly secret technique passed down by me for his own benefit." As soon as the heavenly saintly leader finished speaking, the other three saintly leaders were startled, their faces changing simultaneously. They looked at him with eyes full of suspicion. This guy is really cunning. Who doesn't know that the heavenly secret technique is only passed down to the next generation of Holy Land leaders? He can brazenly use that to win people's hearts like this. Seeing their reactions, heavenly simply glanced at them and smiled slyly. "Yeah, I think." Su Changxian's voice echoed, breaking the tranquil space. His voice at that moment also caused the other three Holy Land leaders to panic, thinking that he would agree to Heavenly Mo's condition. They immediately began to compete, each offering their own enticing conditions for Su Changxian to agree. They hastily said, "Just the position of the next Holy Land leader, how about it? If you agree, I can immediately give up my position as Holy Land leader and give you." The beautiful saintly leader, dressed in a somewhat provocative outfit, also chimed in, "I am willing to bestow upon you a precious fairy chi, and I am willing to allocate all the resources of the Holy Land to Su little friend." The remaining saintly leader also offered attractive conditions no less than the other three, talking rapidly toward Su Changsheng, making him bewildered and not knowing how to respond. So, he could only stand helplessly, like a statue. Yushe, standing far away, saw them converging on Su Changsheng, causing her to furrow her brows. How annoying, Su Changsheng is my only love. How can I let them compete for him like this? The White Empress appeared to advise her young disciple. Be patient. Do these people really think they can charm Su Changsheng? We came to the Supreme Sword Sect just to conveniently nurture you. In our eyes, these are just jests. Upon hearing this, Yushe regained her composure and felt somewhat relieved, saying, that's right. If it were other cultivators, it would be fine, but for Su Changsheng, this is absolutely impossible. Seeing the Holy Land leaders arguing endlessly, Su Changsheng called out, bringing their debate to a halt. His voice cut through the quiet space, causing them to stop and turn to him in unison, looking at him expectantly. One of them, bewildered, asked, Little friend Su, were we causing you discomfort with our discussions? Fearing that the Holy Land leaders would misunderstand him, Su Changsheng clasped his hands respectfully before there and replied, Su Changsheng deeply appreciates the senior's recognition, but please allow this junior to decline these offers. Although outwardly composed, inside, he felt disheartened, realizing that everything seemed desirable, yet he couldn't enjoy any of it. Seeing Su Changsheng firmly refuse, the Holy Land leaders didn't know what to do and felt somewhat disappointed. The muscular senior asked with a hint of sadness, then where will Su Changsheng go? He closed his eyes, placed his hand on his chest, and said, because there are people in the Supreme Sword Sect that Su Changsheng cannot abandon. This answer satisfied Xiao Yun greatly, while Yushe blushed, thinking that he did so because of her. Standing behind him, Yushe slowly approached him, feeling shy and awkward, realizing that she was the one Su Changsheng cherished the most. Observing his gradual rejection of the offers, the White Empress thought to herself, I knew it. Su Changsheng must be just like me, looking down on these mundane things. However, his thoughts were not as straightforward as the White Empress or Yushe assumed. While he appeared calm on the surface, deep inside, he contemplated briefly. He was quite familiar with the Supreme Sword Sect. Besides, it was the first place he encountered in the world of cultivators. If he wanted to start anew, there would be more opportunities here. The disciples of the Supreme Sword Sect, moved to tears, expressed their gratitude for his actions and words. They rushed toward Su Changsheng, feeling as if they had met their savior. Tears welled up in their eyes as they spoke, Su Changsheng, you're truly noble and magnanimous. You disregarded grudges and grievances and made decisions for the greater good. Your actions truly shame us. Witnessing the heartfelt gratitude of the disciples of the Supreme Sword Sect, Su Changsheng could only helplessly raise his hand to signal his rejection of the flowery words directed at him. In truth, I'm not as skilled as you think. I'm not worthy of such praise. Su Changsheng's response further improved the saintly leader's impression of him. Not only did Su Changsheng possess talent, but he also had virtue, which earned him applause and praise. The muscular senior, with a somewhat admiring gaze, remarked, modesty truly is extremely modest. Realizing that persuading Su Changsheng was futile, it was best to leave. The muscular senior, along with the other three, displayed their techniques and soared into the sky. Before leaving, the muscular senior looked back at Su Changsheng and said, Su Changsheng, if fate permits, we hope to meet again. With that, they flew away. Returning to the arena, Su Changsheng sighed deeply, thinking to himself, I just wanted an easy life. Why does being a young master have to be so difficult? Miss Yushe, follow me to the Supreme Sword Sect to register your identity. The polite elder approached her, extending his hand in invitation. Hearing this, Yushe walked over to Su Changsheng and said, I'll go and come back soon. Okay, he replied gently. Yushe left, still immersed in the lingering feeling of love. At this moment, Su Changsheng's master spoke from behind, Su Changsheng, your master understands your good intentions. You've concealed your wisdom and talent to endure numerous humiliations, all to help your master establish prestige within the Elder Council, to secure power and reputation, isn't that right? Su Changsheng's expression darkened as he felt bewildered. I didn't really have good intentions. I can't say I did that to help Yushe obtain Supreme Sword Sect's treasure. His master, Xiao Yun, still unaware of the truth, approached and lightly tapped his shoulder before cheerfully saying, "You're so skilled that you even managed to hide this from your master." The familiar and affectionate gesture from his master caused Su Changsheng's face to blush slightly, but he immediately became anxious, intending to explain himself. However, before he could finish his sentence, Xiao Yun gently continued without allowing Su Changsheng to interject, "You don't need to hide anymore. Your master understands your good intentions. What more could your master want from a disciple like you?" The elder standing nearby suddenly spoke up, "Sword Master, I have something to ask." Xiao Yun responded with a cold tone. Realizing he had the opportunity to inquire, the elder respectfully clasped his hands and said, "Su Changsheng, I have a question. Do you know where that precious longevity sword is now?" The question left Su Changsheng at a loss for words, enveloped in a sense of fear. When Xiao Yun asked, "Su Changsheng, how did you handle that matter?" he panicked, struggling to find an answer. Feeling their expectation, his fear intensified. Xiao Yun looked at him with sparkling eyes, full of trust, silently thinking, "Su Changsheng's display of swordsmanship today is truly remarkable. I'm sure the longevity sword has acknowledged him as its master. Why not take this opportunity to train Su Changsheng?" The elder standing beside Xiao Yun was lost in thought. But Su Changsheng's next words left them stunned. "I gave it to you, sure," he said flatly, as if slapping them in the face with his words. Xiao Yun restrained his agitation. "What? You gave the longevity sword to a new disciple of the sect?" Su Changsheng quickly explained, "The longevity sword has acknowledged Yushir as its master. They have formed a spiritual bond. So, there's no need to worry about the sword anymore." His words left everyone speechless. The atmosphere suddenly became tense, as if everything was heading towards a dead end. Then, the elder spoke again. "Yushir is now a disciple of our Supreme Sword Sect, and the longevity sword has accepted her as its master. Her future cultivation prospects are limitless." Su Changsheng had found a good disciple for their Supreme Sword Sect. Contrary to the elder's joy, Xiao Yun looked at Su Changsheng with suspicion and confusion. Could it be that Su Changsheng possesses such extraordinary swordsmanship on his own? How much power is he hiding from our master? Footsteps approached, growing louder. Yushir's joyful face came into view as she spoke to him, "Su Changsheng, now you and I are fellow disciples." Seeing Yushir's happiness, Su Changsheng gently praised her, "Well done." From now on, he thought, his safety at the Supreme Sword Sect would depend entirely on her. Su Changsheng respectfully clasped his hands before his master, saying, "It's time for us to return to the sect." Xiao Yun continued, "Although the selection process isn't over, Supreme Sword Sect has already made enough of an impression today. It's time to return." Xiao Yun thought to herself, surprised that Su Changsheng, who used to be carefree, was now showing such maturity, making everything better. It seemed like Supreme Sword Sect had found its successor. With a happy smile, she turned and left. Seeing his master leave, Su Changsheng intended to follow, but his arm was held back by Yushir. She embraced his arm tightly, saying, "Su Changsheng, let's go together." Yushir's proximity and the accidental touch of her hand made Su Changsheng blush like a ripe tomato. He stuttered, "Yushir, you're too close. What are you afraid of? You're already my fiancé, so why be shy?" Yushir blushed too, saying, "I'm sure I'll become stronger until we can be together, as you said." Despite his shyness, Su Changsheng tried to avoid too much intimacy with Yushir. "Let's go," said Xiao Yun, walking ahead before turning back and speaking, "By the way, Su Changsheng, I intend to inform the sect of your return. It's good to reclaim your position as the senior brother in front of everyone." This startled Su Changsheng, who exclaimed, "No need." Xiao Yun, puzzled, said, "But this concerns your honor." Interrupting his master, Su Changsheng interjected sporadically, "How can I take advantage of everyone's training time for my selfish purposes? Any lost reputation must be regained by myself. Otherwise, no matter how famous, it's just an empty shell." Hearing this, the White Empress, hiding within Yushir's body, used telepathy to ask, "What do you think?" In perfect harmony, Yushir quickly understood the White Empress's suggestion and silently responded with a simple, "Yes." She then unexpectedly grabbed Su Changsheng's hand and said, "This is clearly just an excuse," causing him to startle and look back at her. Su Changsheng, thinking that Yushi had discovered his hidden secret, panicked and became flustered. Yushi, with a proud yet playful expression, nestled into Su Changsheng's hand and said, "Su Changsheng, he just wants to return to the sect quickly and together with me, right? That's why I chose to be with him." Hearing this, Su Changsheng breathed a sigh of relief. He thought, luckily, my performance didn't give away the secret. Regaining his composure, Su Changsheng turned to Yushi with a loving gaze and asked, "Do you know what the most important thing we need to do now is?" Curiously, Yushi replied, "What's the most important thing?" Su Changsheng then coolly extended his hands behind his back and said, "It's to conceal our true power and remain humble, not bragging too much." His word surprised both Yushi and Master Xiaoyun. They hadn't expected Su Changsheng's insight to be so profound. Meanwhile, Su Changsheng, on the surface calm and collected, was internally lamenting, "Being a villain is really hard, huh?" The scene shifted to a small cliff, with a gigantic and majestic ship in front. The serene atmosphere complemented the grandeur of the vessel. Su Changsheng, Yushi, Master Xiaoyun, and the disciples were all present on the small cliff. After everyone had gathered, and when they were safely aboard the ship, Master Xiaoyun began to speak, "Even though using a sword can fly very far, it will take a lot of energy therefore, we still prefer to use this illusionary ship as a means of transportation for missions or journeys to distant places." "Ah, I see," Yushi replied with understanding. Observing Yushi's excitement and curiosity, Su Changsheng couldn't help but smile affectionately at her. He was surprised to see the future Sword Empress displaying such a cute expression, almost like that of a little girl. This sight brought a smile to his face, unable to contain his amusement at her adorable demeanor. Su Changsheng then turned to Xiaoyun and said, "Master, Yushi has just been through a tough battle. I think she needs some rest to recuperate. If there's nothing else you need to assign to us, as new disciples, may we retreat to the last room of the river pavilion to rest and recover?" Hearing the sweet and caring words from Su Changsheng's mouth, Yushi was pleasantly surprised and felt happy. She thought to herself, "He cares about me, he's thinking about me. It turns out he's sincere." Although Su Changsheng appeared to be deeply concerned about Yushi on the surface, internally, he was only thinking about himself and the need to quickly return to the room. If his hidden aura technique lost its effectiveness, his true cultivation level would be immediately detected. Master Xiaoyun, seeing the affectionate scene between the two, chuckled and said, "All right, go rest. When we arrive at the Sect, I'll send someone to inform both of you." Upon hearing this, Su Changsheng immediately took Yushi's hand and said, "Let's go." Hand in hand, they headed towards the last room to rest. But as they approached the door, Su Changsheng was startled to see Hua Chen standing there. He panicked, thinking, "What does Hua Chen want now?" Standing beside him, Yushi said, "Hurry up." Both of them really didn't want to encounter Hua Chen and deal with any additional trouble. They swiftly passed by him and his disciples with a cold and indifferent attitude. Inwardly, Hua Chen felt a sense of shame. Not only did Su Changsheng not insult him for his defeat, but he also showed him some respect in front of everyone. This made Hua Chen feel a bit overwhelmed. Thinking this, Hua Chen's grip tightened. "Senior brother, I am truly not as good as you." Hua Chen knelt down, moved to tears by Su Changsheng's noble and dignified actions. He could only sit on the ground. Finally, "I can rest," Su Changsheng sighed tiredly as he sat on the bed. Suddenly, a gentle voice mixed with a hint of allure emanated from Yushi, startling him and making him look towards the sound. The scene before him made him blush and feel embarrassed. Yushi, in her delicate attire, was sitting on his lap, revealing her beautiful body curves and fair thighs. The atmosphere of shyness and allure quickly enveloped the small room. "What are you doing, Yushi?" Su Changsheng asked, feeling a bit embarrassed. He could look at her when she wasn't too close, but when her white breasts were so close to him, it made his face flush like a ripe tomato. Being unmarried and inexperienced, Su Changsheng observed propriety and avoided looking at things he shouldn't. He immediately turned his face away, clenching his teeth and silently chastising himself, "Please, I'm just a normal guy, don't tempt me like this. She's the future empress. If I can't control myself, the consequences will be disastrous. All the intentional avoidance and shyness of his actions had been seen by Yushi. She looked at his shy expression, unsure of what to do, and chuckled inwardly, thinking, a man would only be shy when facing the woman he loves. Seeing her future fiancé, Su Changxian, feeling embarrassed, Yushi suddenly exclaimed and then shyly leaned into Su Changxian's arms. "What's wrong with you?" Su Changxian asked with concern, gently comforting her. Yushi replied softly, "I suddenly felt dizzy and my vision blurred." As soon as she finished speaking, Su Changxian quickly lifted her up, saying, "If that's the case, you might be feeling seasick. It's best for you to return to bed and rest." "You're so kind, Su Changxian," she shyly said as he carefully laid her down on the bed. Su Changxian warmly replied, "Rest well, and I'll wake you up when we arrive." After tucking her in, Su Changxian turned and walked out. His body was now trembling, his face flushed like a ripe tomato. Su Changxian tried to tightly grasp and control the beast within him. He thought to himself, "I can see, but I can't touch. It's so painful." After he left and the door slowly closed behind him, Yushi cautiously opened her eyes. Sitting on the bed, she looked a little lost and said, "Did he really not do anything?" The White Empress, seeing her disciple's doubts, couldn't help but admonish her slightly. She used her divine sense to communicate with Yushi, saying, "What are you thinking?" Su Changxian's temperament has long surpassed that of an ordinary person. How could he be fooled by such tricks? Hearing her master's words, Yushi felt a bit disappointed and lay back on the bed, musing, how could he resist it? Does he really like me? Seeing her junior disciple's confused thoughts, the White Empress continued to reassure her, if he can control himself, it just shows how extraordinary he is. When you both reach the Supreme Sword Sect, you will have countless opportunities to practice together. So why worry now? Upon hearing this, Yushi felt somewhat reassured. She smiled shyly and said, "Sooner or later, Yushi will have her way with him and devour him, hee." Meanwhile, Su Changxian, who was meditating on one side, suddenly jolted, feeling a shiver down his spine as if someone had mentioned him. The scene shifts to outside the large ship. Su Changxian stands on the deck, arms wide open, feeling the cool breeze, saying, "The Supreme Sword Sect truly deserves to be at the top of the 10 great holy lands." Master Xiaoyun and an elder suddenly appeared behind him and commented, "Su Changxian, your dedication to the sect is truly remarkable." The elder standing beside Xiaoyun added, "Yes, it's clear that senior brother Su Changxian should have long been tired of such magnificent scenes. Yet, when faced with the majestic mountains and rivers earlier, Su Changxian still admires them greatly. This demonstrates how dedicated Su Changxian is to our grand sect." Contrary to everyone's thoughts, Su Changxian was still anxiously worrying, silently thinking that he could hardly say that he had almost never ventured outside in the past 10 years. The voice of his master suddenly interrupted his thoughts. "Su Changxian, do you remember the disciple you brought back?" Because of his current reincarnation, Su Changxian was curious and turned to ask, "Master, did I do such a thing before?" Seeing Su Changxian's inquiry, Xiaoyun went on to elaborate on this disciple. "That disciple couldn't even cultivate her physical body for many years. Despite my efforts to train her alongside the Supreme Sword Sect, it was truly difficult for her to continue cultivating." Upon hearing this, Su Changxian turned around and said, "The cultivation world is indeed cruel. Perhaps the mortal realm would suit someone like her better. Maybe we should find opportunities to take her out of the Sword Sect." The scene in front of Su Changxian suddenly darkened, and he couldn't see anything anymore. What's this situation, he wondered, feeling perplexed. That was the new plot. In his eyes now, the image of that disciple suddenly appeared. The second fate of Heaven's Empress? Suspicion grew in his heart, and the past scenes of that disciple quickly flashed before him. On that day, at the young orphan trading area, surrounded by despicable and sinister individuals, that disciple and other pitiful girls were huddled together in a dirty, filthy place. Meanwhile, the ringleader was auctioning them off as if they were cheap commodities. "Come on, gentlemen, today we have a beautiful young girl. Although her vision may be a bit blurry, her face and figure are undeniably beautiful. This is top-notch merchandise. The highest bidder will have this beautiful girl in their hands." The crowd of societal scum started clamoring and competing to bid higher. I bid 1 unit. I bid 10 units. 15 units. 20 units. The prices kept escalating until he suddenly appeared. I'll pay 500 units, Su Changxian unexpectedly spoke from behind those scoundrels, who didn't know when he had arrived or why he would offer such a high price just to buy her. The crowd of depraved scoundrels was momentarily stunned, shouting in disbelief, "What in the world?" Su Changxian disregarded the chaotic crowd and slowly approached the girl sitting there, offering his hand warmly and kindly. "Do you want to come with me? I'll take you to the best immortal sect and personally teach you cultivation techniques." Though somewhat confused, she was already a sold commodity, so she had no choice but to agree. Initially, the girl thought he was a benefactor bestowed upon her by the heavens, giving her a chance to change her miserable fate. However, reality turned out to be far from her imagination. Despite Su Changsheng's outward appearance of extreme kindness compared to the others, he was actually like a demon. She cried out in pain as she fell to the ground. Su Changsheng pushed her down forcefully, his face twisted with cruelty as he sneered, "I only bought you because it's amusing to take away things that others desire. But did you truly believe you were my disciple? How ridiculous." She couldn't believe he was also a demon, looking down on others, considering them cheap toys unworthy of a single penny. He left her in the sword sect, enduring the ridicule and contempt of the other disciples. The whispers and pointing fingers were things she faced every day in the sect. He ignored her suffering, leaving her to self-destruct, until one day, her master died under a heavy rainstorm, and her heart grew as cold as the rain. She kneeled before her master's cold grave, saying, "From today onwards, Shen Ruodian will no longer have any attachment to the Supreme Sword Sect. I swear that in the future, I will personally kill Su Changsheng." A bright lightning bolt, reflecting the hatred and anger in her heart, struck down, illuminating the entire area in the pouring rain of the dark night. Suddenly, Su Changsheng remembered and opened his eyes in horror as the next scene unfolded 3 years later. The invincible demon, Shen Ruodian, stood supreme, with Su Changsheng's body lying in a pool of blood like a river, staining the entire area red. Her lifeless eyes and blood-stained sword had avenged the past. Alone, she effortlessly annihilated the Su clan. Su Changsheng himself had also fallen under the sharp blade of Shen Ruodian. Witnessing such a terrifying future vision made Su Changsheng stagger, holding his face in fear. Su Changsheng, as a villain, you truly know how to find your own path to death. I admire you. At this point, unable to keep calm anymore, he erupted in hatred, unable to kill his past self's despicable actions. He angrily struck the small figure on the ground, shouting fiercely. Seeing Su Changsheng's reaction, Master Xiao Yun immediately spoke, "If that's the case, then I'll expel her. This girl Shen Ruodian is clearly too inferior for the Supreme Sword Sect." Hearing his master's words, Su Changsheng couldn't help but jolt in panic, his face turning pale. He raised his hand and shouted loudly, "Wait, master, please stop, don't rush." Su Changsheng's strange behavior since earlier had raised countless questions in Xiao Yun's mind. She turned back in confusion, asking, "What's going on?" "Master, I just reconsidered and felt that such matters still need further consideration before making a hasty decision," Su Changsheng said, his heart filled with worry, thinking, "If you let her go, then the master will wait to pick up the body of his dead disciple. Why would you need further consideration? What's there to reconsider?" Xiao Yun asked, slightly curious. Su Changsheng quickly came up with an excuse, saying, "As I see it, there are many talented individuals in the cultivation world who succeed late. So, if we miss out on a talent, wouldn't it be a great loss for the Supreme Sword Sect?" While he maintained a composed and mature demeanor outwardly, inwardly he sighed thought, "If another demon lord appears, it may not attract much attention, but if your disciple is harmed, that's a significant event." Hearing Su Changsheng's mature and confident words, Xiao Yun smiled happily, looking at him affectionately as she said, "My disciple, I never thought you would consider everything so meticulously for the sake of the sect." Su Changsheng could only try to maintain a calm expression and laugh it off. The image of that demonized girl no longer appeared, so it seemed he had temporarily avoided a disaster. But no matter what, he still needed to contact Shen Ruodian first. After all, If a demon lord could resist the entire cultivation world within just 3 short years and grasp such power, wouldn't being close to her offer even more protection? Lost in these thoughts, the appearance of Yushi pulled him back to the present. Su Changxian, what are you thinking about so intently? Yushi asked eagerly. Su Changxian replied warmly, knock knee, after arriving at the Supreme Sword Sect, I have some matters to attend to. Wait a moment, you can go to my residence yourself. There are plenty of guest rooms there, feel free to choose whichever you like. Choose freely. Yushi's eyes sparkled with joy, her cheeks flushed with disbelief as she held Su Changxian's hand and asked again. Yes, Su Changxian replied. Yushi couldn't believe how warm Su Changxian was being. She approached him shyly and hugged him, saying, if you're letting me choose like this, then I want to sleep in your bedroom. Yushi's intimate gesture had brought the two of them closer, causing Su Changxian to feel awkward and turn his face away, saying, choose whatever you want. The scene shifted to an abandoned room that seemed devoid of any human presence or activity for years. The fallen leaves rustled in the wind, creating a serene yet somewhat melancholic atmosphere. Shenruodian stood motionless in the small courtyard, speaking with a hint of regret, Master, from now on, this place will be left to Na Dain to live alone. As this grim scene unfolded, the door suddenly burst open with a powerful force. A girl with a cruel expression and her sisters, looking disdainful, kicked open the old door. With an arrogant demeanor, she said, Shenruodian, your esteemed master is dead. Why does trash like you still dare to stay in the Supreme Sword Sect? Get out quickly, this place will belong to us from now on. Seeing a group of wicked people intending to seize this place, Shenruodian rushed forward, futilely trying to protect it. She raised her hands in front of her and shouted helplessly, this is my master's residence. No one can take it away. However, with her small and powerless body, protecting this place from the villains was impossible. Shenruodian was quickly subdued with a light flick of the cruel girl's hand. She cursed, a useless weakling like you dare to speak up to me? How laughable. Shenruodian lay on the ground, battered and bruised, looking pathetic with her dirty face and a few scratches. The recent blow had left her lying helpless on the ground.